All right, now as we look into section 13.4, we're going to take a look a little bit now at that conflict piece that we started out with in the first part of the last video. So managing conflict. So we're going to talk about the nature of conflict. So we're going to talk about how disagreement, normal. It's a normal thing to disagree amongst friends, amongst teams, amongst groups. Something that isn't all that rare, and it's something that we sort of have to embrace. Can too little or too much conflict affect performance? We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at the 4 kinds of conflict: personality, envy, intergroup, and cross-cultural. We'll take a look at how to stimulate constructive conflict. We'll take a look at leading career readiness competencies to help you better handle conflict. And then we'll talk about dealing with disagreements, the 5 conflict handling styles. So, conflict can be negative or it can be a functional conflict, which is good. So, too much or too little can affect performance. This section, like I said, we're going to take a look at kind of how it all works out. So the nature of conflict: disagreement is normal. So conflict is simply disagreement, a perfectly normal state of affairs. Dysfunctional conflict, so that's the bad conflict, and then the functional conflict, which is the good type of conflict. So we have 2 different types of conflict: one good, one bad. So dysfunctional conflict hinders the organization's performance, threatens its interests. Functional conflict benefits the main purposes of the organization and serves its interests. Now we have this chart here: too little, too much conflict. Can it affect performance? And this chart is also available for further reading on page 583 in your textbook. So too little conflict, to be honest, there's a part of it where we have inactivity. So work groups, departments, organizations that experience too little conflict tend to be plagued by apathy, a lack of creativity, indecision, and missed deadlines. So this results in organizational performance suffering. It's kind of like being on autopilot, right? Where everybody's just kind of there, they're hanging out, but they stagnate, right? There's no creativity. Everybody's just kind of there. So too little, too much, too little conflict. And there's the too much conflict. This is warfare at this point, and it's not warfare in the sense of typical warfare, but in terms of excessive conflict, can erode organizational performance because of political infighting, dissatisfaction, a lack of teamwork, and turnover. Workplace aggression and violence are manifestations of excessive conflict, right? So then there's the other opposite end of the scale where excessive conflict can impede your ability to work as a team for numerous different reasons, right? So too much conflict can be obviously not good for the organization because then all of a sudden we're not focused on the task at hand. We're more focused on each other and what we dislike about each other. And then there's this little sweet spot area where and we look at it, this is a bell-shaped curve. We kind of look at between the standard deviation. We take a look at it there, and we kind of see that all right, there's this like sweet spot of it's good to have a little conflict, a little friction. It's good to be competitive, but we don't want it to take away from our performance goals. We don't want people to absolutely hate each other within our workplace. But there is a place and time for conflict to occur within an organization. So we take a look here: the 4 types of conflict: personality, envy, intergroup, and cross-cultural. Personality conflicts. So this is a clash because of personal dislikes or disagreements. So personality conflict is defined as interpersonal opposition based on personal dislike or disagreement. Okay, this one is basically like, I hate my coworker because of the way he talks, the way he acts, yada yada yada. I don't like his face. Okay, that's that's a joke, but they don't like each other on a personal level. Then there's envy-based conflict. So this is clashes because of what others have. So envy is an unpleasant feeling of inferiority and resentment caused by comparing yourself with a person or group who possesses something you desire. So this might be something where you envy, a manager because you feel inferior to that manager, even though you're like, well, I'm better than that guy, right? I should have that job, and I'm kind of envious of that individual having that position, right? So envy-based conflict, that's what that looks like. Intergroup conflict. So this is a clash among work groups, teams, and departments. So inconsistent goals or reward systems when people pursue different objectives. Ambiguous jurisdiction. So when job boundaries are unclear. So in terms of who is responsible of what, what are the goals, what are the reward systems. So when there's not a well-defined goal reward system, who's in charge of what hierarchy. This can cause intergroup conflicts where there's just clashes among individuals because nobody's exactly sure who's doing what. And then the status differences is another part of another top of that, where there's inconsistency in the power and influence. Then we have cross-cultural conflicts. So this is clashes between cultures. So with cross-border mergers, joint ventures, international alliances, common features of the global economy, there are frequent opportunities for clashes between cultures. Developing career readiness competencies for cross-cultural awareness and having an open mind will allow you to minimize multicultural conflicts, right? And this isn't just, again, conflicts culturally of, like race or ethnicity. This is, especially for in like a merger situation where you have one organization come in, they've done things like this, and then you're merging with an organization that has, different ideas, different values, different sets and ideas. And that can really cause, a cultural battle in terms of just the company organization. So there's a few different fronts that we can take a look when it comes to that. How to stimulate constructive conflict. So spur competition among employees. So competition, of course, is a form of conflict, but competition is often healthy, spurring people to produce higher results as long as it does not lead to extreme envy. Okay, so always, a little bit of competitive spirit, a little bit of competitive fight is always good. Change the organization's culture and procedures. So competition may be established by making deliberate and highly publicized moves to change the corporate culture. Bring in outsiders for new perspectives. So without new blood, organizations can become stagnant and resistant to change. This is why managers often bring in outsiders, people, from a different unit of the organization, news hires for competing companies or consultants. Use program conflict. So devil's advocacy in the dialectic method. So programmed conflict is designed to elicit different opinions without inciting people's personal feelings. Devil's advocacy is the process of assigning someone to play the role of critic. And then the dialectic method is the process of having two people or groups play opposing roles in a debate in order to better understand a proposal. Career readiness competencies to help you better handle conflict. So teamwork, collaboration, so establish a common ground or sharing a common goal are great ways to promote teamwork and collaboration. Social intelligence. So social intelligence is the ability to connect with others in a meaningful way, to recognize and understand other person's feelings and thoughts, and to use this information to stimulate positive relationships and beneficial interactions. Openness to change. Openness to change includes being flexible when confronted with change, seeing change as a challenge, and being willing to apply new ideas, processes, or directives. And we have emotional intelligence, is the ability to monitor your emotions and those of others, to discriminate among them, and to use information to guide your thinking and behavior. Then we have oral and written communication. So don't tell the person what they said, how they felt, or what they did. Use language like I felt instead of you said, removes the blame from the conversation, and does not make assumptions on the other person's intentions. Remember that idea of choosing your words carefully. Dealing with disagreements. 5 conflict handling styles. So there's 1, the avoiding. So avoiding is ignoring or suppressing a conflict. It is appropriate for trivial issues, but when emotions are high and a cooling off period is needed, or when the cost of the confrontation outweighs the benefits of resolving the conflict. Obliging. So an obliging or an accommodating manager will always or allows the desires of the other party to prevail. This style may be appropriate when it is possible to eventually get something in return, or when the issue isn't important to you. Dominating, also known as forcing. Dominating is simply ordering an outcome. When a manager relies on their formal authority and power to resolve conflict, it is appropriate when an unpopular solution must be implemented and when it's not important that others commit to your viewpoint. Compromising. In compromising, both parties give up something to gain something. It is appropriate when both sides have opposite goals or possess equal power. Integrating. In this collaborative style, the manager strives to confront the issue, cooperatively identify the problem, generating and weighing alternatives, and selecting a solution. It is appropriate for complex issues plagued by misunderstanding. Career Corner, managing your career, become a more effective team leader, become a more effective collaborator. So 1, commit to the team. A commitment to a team comes down to your willingness to put the needs of others over your self-interest. Yes, you may sacrifice some individual recognition in this process, but the team benefits. The key action here is the willingness to focus on the greater good of the team. Support team members. You can provide emotional support in the form of the time you take to listen and discuss personal matters with others. Instrumental support might also entail showing someone how to complete a task or learn a new skill. It also means putting in extra hours to help the team achieve its goals. Being positive, bring positive emotions to the team. Leave criticism and negativity outside team meetings. They are toxic and reinforce others' tendencies to complain. Lead by example. Demonstrate the behaviors you desire in others. If you want full commitment to team goals, commit to them yourself. If you want people to come prepared to team meetings, come over prepared. Show your colleagues that you are willing to go the extra mile to help the team achieve its goals. Then listen and learn. And then last but not least, be open-minded. So right there, that takes us to the end of chapter 13, or shorter chapter, to be honest with you, which is always good. So always good to throw those in there. So chapter 13, we end it. Here we go, home stretch. Let's get this one done. So all right, whatever time you're listening, have a good morning, good afternoon, or good rest of your night. We'll see you back here for chapter 14.